Hi, I'm Lydia. Let's talk about books. So I just recently did a video talking about all of the books that I think are overrated, and the way that I did it is I went through my Goodreads profile and looked on all of the top rated books and then picked out the books that I think had a rating that was just far too high. But after I filmed that video, it got me thinking about which books do I think are underrated and which books do I think deserve a lot more praise and a lot more attention than they currently get. So what I did was went back onto my Goodreads and I sorted my books from least rated to most. So I wanted to look at all of the books that have less than 1,000 ratings and books that I think deserve a whole lot more attention and love and that I think are amazing and need to be more well known. So today I have 6 books that I really want to tell you about, and I'm going to tell you about them in order of most rated, so around 1,000 ratings, all the way up to a book that only has 116 ratings on Goodreads. Okay, so I want to start with a book that I read because of my Reading Around the World challenge, which, if you don't know, I do a Reading Around the World challenge. I mostly do it over on TikTok, but I include it in some of my reading vlogs as well on this channel. But basically I'm trying to read a book from every single country in the world, and I spin a wheel to randomise which country I'm going to read from. And this was one of the first books that I did in that challenge, and it just took me by such a surprise and I ended up really loving it. I rated the book 4 stars, and it also has such a fun title. So the book that I want to tell you about today is The Blind Earthworm in the Labyrinth. It also has an absolutely incredible cover that I just love. Excuse my busted nails, but just look at this beautiful cover. So this book is from Thailand and it's not too long, and it's translated from Thai, which is one of the things that I think I really enjoyed about it, is the really unusual way that it's written. There's actually a very long translator note just at the beginning of the book talking all about the translation and kind of what a challenge the translation was because of how the Thai language was used for this book. This book is really well known in Thailand and it's won many awards, but it's only got 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. So I want to change that because I really think that this book would really suit so many readers, especially if you like magical realism, if you like character-centered stories, if you like dreamy and kind of lyrical writing. It follows 2 sisters and also their childhood friend, and the book just follows their lives as they try to escape their intertwined fates. I really enjoyed this book. I love the writing. I thought it was mesmerising and it had a really dreamlike quality to it. And there's also a lot of food descriptions in this book that was just amazing and just made me so hungry. And also Thai food is my absolute favourite cuisine in the entire world. I think this one would be amazing to pick up if you like that dreamlike, surreal type of fiction. So this one's my first recommendation on this list. So next up, I actually have a historical fiction book that I want to talk about. And if you know anything about my taste, is that I don't usually love historical fiction books, but everything about it worked for me and it hit me at the exact right time. And I read it years ago and I rated it 5 stars. So I'd want to reread to see if I still agree with that rating now. But the book is Passion, a novel of the Romantic poets. This only has 854 ratings on Goodreads. So this book basically follows 3 of the most famous Romantic poets, Byron, Shelley and Keats, who became famous for their poetry but also their glamorous or shocking or very tragic lives. But this book actually follows 4 women who are linked to these men in different ways. I honestly think that one of the biggest reasons that this book has such a low rating or low number of ratings on Goodreads is because of this cover, because it's just so at odds with the actual content of the book. It makes it look like it's a bodice ripper type of romance novel, and it's really not. It's very much focused on their historical fiction aspects. Although it does include romance, I really think the focus here is on the intricacies of the relationships between these famous men and the women who are in their lives. I just really enjoyed this one and I really want to read it again to see if it still holds up. But for me, one of the reasons I loved it so much is that it was just so transportive. I also learned a lot about the poetry of the era. And yeah, I would just really recommend, if you like historical fiction, to pick this one up. Next up, we do have actually a historical romance, a kind of Regency era romance book. And I've talked about this book before because I really enjoyed it, but I think that it's not getting enough of the hype that it deserves. It's more of a recent release than the other 2. But I've actually read quite a lot from this author and this is my favourite one, and that's why I'm kind of surprised at how little known it is. But I do believe that this one will get more ratings as time goes on. And the book that I'm talking about is Trouble by Lex Croucher. So Lex has written 3 kind of historical Regency era romance books, Trouble, Reputation, and Infamous, and Trouble was my favourite. In this book, you're following Emily, who is on her way to go and take up a new job as a governess in this big house looking after 2 children and having to interact with their very grumpy and ungentlemanly father. But the thing about Emily is that she's a liar and she actually hates children and she's never been a governess before. She's actually taking the identity of her sister, who was supposed to be the governess but has unexpectedly fallen ill, and she needs to go. Her plan is to go, be a governess for as long as she can, steal as much as she can, and sell it to make money to look after her sister. I would say read this one if you like The Sound of Music, because it gives me exactly those vibes. It's got a slow burn romance, it's got found family, it's got amazing side characters that all feel fully fleshed out, and it's just such a good fun romp of a time, and I would really recommend that you pick it up. And Trouble only has 772 ratings on Goodreads, and I rated this 4.5 stars. So next up I want to talk about a brand new release, but I really want to mention it because I don't think that this author actually gets the attention he deserves, and after reading this one I've realised that he's now going to be one of my favourite authors, because not only is his longer running series amazing, but also this new series looks like it's going to be just as fun. And this book only has 738 ratings currently on Goodreads, so I really wanted to shout it out. And the book is The Hexologists. So this is by Josiah Bancroft, who also wrote the Senlin Ascends or the Tower of Babel series, which, if my camera is slightly high, you'd be able to see is sitting just up there on my shelf. And if you've seen my bookshelf tour, you should know that he's one of the only male fantasy author books that I actually buy to physically have. So that should tell you just how much I love his writing. Senlin Ascends series is one of my favourites of all time, but The Hexologist has just recently come out, and this is going to be a new series, so I really wanted to talk about it. This basically follows a married couple who are known as the Hexologists, and they perform this branch of magic to help people get out of sticky situations. They take on clients and they solve problems, and one day they are approached by a member of the royal house and they are asked to help the king, who has decided that he wants to be baked into a cake and basically burned alive. So they eventually decide to take on this case and help out the crown, but in the process of taking on this case they discover a wider kind of conspiracy going on, and I don't want to tell you too much about the story because it's just such a fun thing to discover, and unravelling this mystery is one of the best things about this book and also about Josiah Bancroft's writing in general. But speaking of the writing, that's exactly why I want to recommend it, because I just absolutely love the way that he writes. He writes with such wit and humour and warmth, but there's also such a depth to his writing and an intricacy that I just don't see in many other fantasy writers, and I think it's why he has to be one of my favourites. I also love the world building for this first book, and I can't wait to see it expand throughout this series. And the relationship between the two main characters as a married couple who are very much in love is just such a fun and cosy way to experience a mystery story, because they're just going about their lives but they're just so deeply in love with each other, and it's just adorable, and also feels really unusual that a married couple is the main perspectives in a story, even though it feels like it shouldn't be such an odd thing, but it kind of felt really unique. So if you love fantasy, pick up this book, The Hexologists, or pick up any other of Josiah Bancroft's books, because I'm pretty convinced that you're just going to love them. So yeah, that is the next book. So the next book I want to talk about, or the next 2 books I want to talk about, because they're part of a duology. I am just so surprised that I never see these books discussed in the fantasy, dystopian, sci-fi kind of space, because they had such an effect on me when I read them when I was younger, and I just think that they are incredible. And the first book only has just over 1,000 ratings, but the second book only has like 375, which I just feel is insane because I was obsessed, and they are so good. So the duology that I'm talking about are Bloodtide, the first book, and Bloodsong, the sequel. So this is kind of a dystopian fantasy sci-fi series, and it's actually based on the saga, the Icelandic saga of Volsunga. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, as I'm no doubt that I am. But these books are based in a far future London in the year 2300, where London is in complete ruins, and it is frighteningly very realistic how London is described. But basically London is being ruled over by these 2 crime lord, these gang lord families. But at the start of the book you're following a attempted truce between the 2 families, where the 14-year-old daughter is being married off to the son of the other crime family. So you follow along this child bride as she is forced into this marriage, and the effects that this truce has on both of the families but also the entire society. And these books are gruesome. It says that the young adult, they are very gruesome and very tragic. and also they feel epic in scale. I'd really recommend these books to anyone who is a big fan of the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. It really has a similar tone, and that could maybe give you a flavour of what to expect. Also, I loved the Norse gods that were included in this story. I just think that the way that these books kind of go off the rails is just such a fun ride, and they will absolutely have you gripped, and I can't believe that they're not more talked about because they are really, really engaging and incredible books. So the last book I want to talk about is actually kind of out there for me and not really something that I usually read, but I was recommended it by my mum and I'm really glad that I did read it. And it's one of my favourite books that has the absolute fewest ratings on Goodreads at only 116 ratings, but I rated this book 4 stars. And the book is Life on the Golden Horn, and this is a travel kind of memoir. It's part of the Penguin's Great Journeys collection that they put out. So this is a collection of letters written by Mary Wortley Montagu, I think is her name. So these are the letters of Lady Mary, who was an aristocrat at the time, and her husband had just been appointed an ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. So it's marking her journey travelling to Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. So these letters are set between 1716 and 1718 when they were recalled back. And I just absolutely loved this book as this really short, it's only about 100 pages, insight into the world at that time, because she's travelling through a huge number of countries, and because these are her personal letters, she's making note of what the other ladies that she's meeting are wearing and their customs and their lives, and it's just such an interesting little insight. Just the way that she writes these letters and the concept of this big journey that she was taking is so interesting as she's experiencing all of these new cultures and religions and places and architecture and clothes at the time, and just the way that she's describing them in these letters is so fun and really interesting. And I just think that the writing was also really easy and really enjoyable to read. If you're interested in that period of time or this concept of someone taking this long journey, I'd really, really recommend that you pick this book up because it's just clearly just not very well known at all. Okay, so they are the 7 books that I think are criminally underknown and underhyped, and the 7 best books that I think that you probably have never heard of. But please let me know down in the comments if you have heard of any of these books, and even better if you've read them and what you thought. I'd be so interested to know, because I don't have enough people to talk about these books because not many people have read them. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. It really helps me out and I appreciate it so much. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!